morning, Eddie.
Morning, Razor.
Morning. We've just seen that the club have announced a friendly in December, about a week before Christmas, after your break during the World Cup. Can you just tell us a bit about your plans at that stage of December, and will you have any more games during the period when the Premier League pauses?
Yeah, you've taken me forward now. So yes, we have. Well, we're trying to organise a good, almost like a mini pre-season for the players. Really, the players that remain with us will need to stay fit and sharp and ready for the Premier League resuming. So yeah, it's an exciting game. A game we're looking forward to. And hopefully there will be a good schedule of games for us to be ready.
Coming back to today then, and the injury situation, have you picked up any new problems in the week since Aston Villa?
New problems? No, I think we've had a few, as we always do, a few bumps and bruises, but nothing too bad. So we've come through with Alan okay after his little cameo, John Joe okay after his little cameo. So the strength of the group is slowly returning. I think we have obviously Emil, Alex, and Matt Ritchie still out. Apart from that, I think we're in a good place.
Shelby's come off the bench late on twice. Is he ready to start yet if you need him to do that?
I think John Joe would probably say yes. I think he's certainly getting closer. I think this was his first proper week's training. His full week's training was last week. So this has been his second week. So he's in a lot better place. But without that sort of match exposure, he hasn't had that. We wanted to protect him from that and try and see him through to the World Cup break.
You won't have Joe Linton at Southampton because of suspension. Generally this season, to what extent do you feel he's taken his game on and built on the great things he did for you last year?
I think Joe's been fantastic again for me this season. I think he's been a model of consistency. Really pleased for him last week to see him score. I felt he needed that himself. He didn't need it for me, but he needed it for himself. He was very pleased, I think, to get that goal. But again, I asked him to play in a different position, and he did it selfishly for the team. As always with Joe, I think he's got that steeliness and that work ethic and that determination that the team needs when we're playing at our best. I think he epitomises that.
Last Saturday, when Jamal Lascelles came on quite late in the game, Kieran Trippier was straight over to give him the captain's armband, and there's clearly respect for him and his status as club captain, but he hasn't played as big a role on the pitch this season. But behind the scenes, what has his role been in terms of leadership and support for the other players? Yeah,
Jamal has been and will be our leader. He is our leader off the pitch. Yes, he's not been on the pitch as much as probably he would have liked, but he's not changed his the way he's led the group or his status, as you say, within the group. Everyone looks at him as the captain, and that's purely down to how he conducts himself day to day. His attitude to his training has been exemplary. He's got the respect of everybody here. He has led the group. As I said before, we have a leadership group, and they're a big part of what we do, trying to push standards and drive the group forward all the time. I can't praise Jamal enough.
And Southampton, your opponents this weekend, just above the relegation zone as we go into this set of games, but they've made quite a few changes over the summer, brought in a lot of young players. How do you assess them and the way they'll test you on Sunday?
Southampton's a very difficult game, always. I've got a lot of respect for Ralph. I think he's done a very good job there over a long period of time. I think they're very difficult to read, a team that changes system a lot, changes personnel a lot, so to try and sort of fix what they're going to do is tough. I think they've had a few injuries as well to some of their key players, that they look like they're returning to the squad, so I think that will give them a lift. So we're aware it's going to be a really difficult game. They've got a lot of youth, as you say, in the squad now, so physically we're going to have to be very good in this game.
Thank you.
Keith? Eddie, would you say the team are exceeding expectations at the moment?
I don't know. It depends on who's sort of setting those expectations. I think for me, I've always said when I sit here, we plan to win. That's our expectation. So if we don't do that, we fall below what we want to do. I've just been very pleased with the consistency of our training, of our performances has been very good. And all I ask is that we try and continue that to the best of our ability.
Can you feel the expectation rising from the fan base, who obviously look at the league table and see you up there in the top four, and I think some of them beginning to get a little bit excited?
Yeah, I don't really expose myself to it, Keith, so I try and stay very, detached from the emotion, because I don't think that that helps me in my preparation and trying to get the team focused on the next challenge. So I place myself away from that. Just all I want to do is try and get the team performing at its best to the highest level it can with the potential with inside the squad, and not really focus too much on results or targets. Just try and drive the team in the way that I think is best.
Just looking at the bigger picture and of course the transfer window, which is upcoming, can't believe it, in just 6 weeks time or whatever it is. Do you think with the club being in the lofty position that you currently are and potentially going into the transfer window up there as well, do you think you could be in a position to attract players who may not have wanted to come before, players who maybe were desperate to play in Europe? Do you think with yourself being up there it could attract a different type of player or maybe change players' minds?
Well, I'm not trying to dodge your question, but I will, because we haven't had discussions on January yet. We haven't had internally discussions in terms of finances and how we look in the market. So that'll be a question for another day. I think at the moment, 3 games coming up next week, I'll focus very much on that. And I think during the break we will look to January to see what our options are.
Thank you.
Well, Neddy, the banner on Saturday said "This city is believing again." Can you describe what that sort of external belief is doing for you, for the players, for the staff here at Newcastle?
Well, I think we're very, very aware of the expectations placed upon us playing for Newcastle, how important it is for everyone connected with the city. So, the banner and war flags and everything that they produce is just a really special part of Newcastle, and any message they give us is received. And we certainly want everyone connected with the club and the city to believe. It's our job to sort of stay focused on the day-to-day work and what we need to do. But if our performances are getting people in that kind of mindset, I'm all for that. But we then have to live up to that expectation.
The defence now the best in the Premier League still statistically. Goals seem to be flowing from all areas of the pitch. What's the next area that Newcastle United need to improve to take that next step, would you say?
Well, I think the next area is to produce those types of performances week in, week out. And I have to say, I have to compliment the players so far this season. I think we've been very level in terms of what we've produced. In terms of performances, the results haven't, we're always in the lap of the gods. That's the football gods for you. But for us, controlling our application, our desire, all the basics that you need to produce a good performance to win a game, I think have been there. So we need to maintain that. And of course, there's lots of areas of the team we need to continue to improve, which we're working towards every day.
Sean Longstaff was saying to me the other week that if Sven Botman's described as a Rolls Royce, then he's one of those old runaround cars that has plenty of miles on it. And the league table suggests that he's top of the shop in terms of the number of kilometres he covers in a game. How vital is that sort of player or car, to carry on that metaphor, to Newcastle United in the way you play?
Yeah, I think Sean, first and foremost, has been excellent since he's come into the team, and he does give us a drive and an endurance that when he's not there, I think we would miss. He's got a very good attitude to his work. That's the same Sean you see from match day to training, regularly churning out the highest physical stats in training every day, and that's just part of his DNA and how he works and how he plays. But that energy that we have in the team, if you add, you got him, you got Miggy, Joelinton, several other players that had the same qualities, then you become a much harder team to play against.
You mentioned Miggy there. He's seemingly been nominated for every single award going, apart from Manager of the Month in October. Have you ever seen a player who's had, a better month than that? Not just in terms of the number of goals scored, the quality of goals scored, but the performances as well. Yeah,
well, I was saying earlier that we don't expect Miggy to be scoring. We'd love him to, but don't expect him to be scoring, shots from 25, 30 yards every week. I think it's an unrealistic expectation. We're delighted with the ones he has scored, and that if you put them together, which a lot of people have, you end up with a showreel of outstanding goals, with really high technical delivery. But I get just as much pleasure from seeing his second goal against Fulham, a tap-in the 6-yard box from Joe Willock's cross. They're the goals that you'd love our players to be able to deliver every week. So the spectacular ones look great at the moment, but they're difficult to continue, I think.
I saw yesterday on social media that obviously it's not just Miggy nominated for Player of the Month. Bruno and Kieran have been as well. Bruno was saying that, vote for Miggy instead of me and Kieran instead. Does that kind of selflessness sum up the attitude and the spirit within this group at the minute?
Yeah, I think it does. I think that was a lovely gesture from Bruno, and I don't think there was any game attached to that. I think he was genuine in his love for Miggy and feels that Miggy deserves the accolade. But it does sum up Bruno, and I think in part it does sum up the team. I think we're working as a team at the moment. We're not working as individuals or self-gain. It's all for the benefit of the club, and hoping we can elevate our status as a team.
And just finally on Southampton, when a team is playing like Newcastle are right now, high on confidence, really well drilled, what do you say as a manager before they run out for the 90 minutes? Do you have to say anything to them or not?
No, we have to prepare well this week, so we have to get our messages right now and today and this week in terms of our training, because every game is so difficult. I've said this many times, and now we go to Southampton where, as I said, they're very flexible with the way they play, they're very flexible with personnel, so there's an element that they're difficult to prepare for, but we will do everything we can to get the players when they enter the pitch in a confident place, and hopefully we can deliver what we need to at our highest level.
Thanks, Eddie. Best luck, Sunday.
Thank you.
Morning, Eddie.
Morning.
Following Ben Chilwell's injury, Dan Burns being mentioned as a possible contender to take his spot in the squad. Do you think he's deserving of a place on the plane to Qatar?
Yeah, it's a difficult one for me to say, because obviously I'm going to promote all my players at international level to say yes, I do, but I don't want to sort of seem that as a plea to Gareth, because Gareth will do his work. He'll know Dan inside and out, and he'll know his capabilities. So just looking at Dan individually as I do, he can play various positions. He's an incredible person. He's been a model of consistency for me, and he's got great leadership skills. So yeah, I couldn't place a higher value on him, on what he's delivered for me, and I think he can do that in the international stage, but obviously that's Gareth's call.
Is it nice to see him getting some plaudits? Because, a lot's been made of Joe Linton, of Almiron recently, but he's someone, as you said, that's been very consistent for you.
Well, I think whenever you have a team that's consistently doing well, it's not just about 2 or 3 individuals, it's about a squad really of, 20 players. Dan's one of those players that sometimes can go under the radar and not be acknowledged. But he has been so good in different positions for us. He slipped in at left back in such a good way, where he's given us a lot of solidity as we've attacked. He's used the ball very well, but he's defended, first and foremost, he's defended very well as well. So, yeah, I'm really, really pleased for him on a personal level that he's maintained his form. He's in a good place, and yeah, he goes into this next 3-game week in a good place.
And just finally for me, you mentioned that 3-game week. Is there a feeling of, right, just one last push, keep it going, where you've been kind of these last few weeks, and just kind of get to the end of the line?
Yeah, we're keen to play at the moment because of results and how the players are feeling and how we're training. So one big push before the break, and then the players those that go away, go with their countries, and the others can stay and rest, and then do a mini pre-season with us again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Broadcasters. Greg? Eddie, you said you hadn't spoken internally about January, but you have ideas in your head. And when we left this summer, right wing was a position that was being talked about as an area for improvement. Has Miguel Almiron changed your thinking with regards to that during the course of the past 2 months?
Well, I think the key thing here is, Craig, not to listen to outside speculation. For me, the targets we had in the summer were clear. I think we recruited in those positions. I've always said if there's an area that we feel, or players we can feel that can improve the squad, we will always look at that, regardless of who we have internally. So that will never change. But Miggy, I've always instantly loved, even from afar, watching him because of his work rate and playing against us. He's a very difficult player to contain. He's added product this season to his brilliant work out of possession, and that pleases me greatly. So I've sort of gone around the houses a bit, but we're looking in every position to improve, and that won't change with the ambition of the owners. But certainly the players that are here and have done well for us will be respected.
Who would you rather have in your team right now, Miguel Almiron or Jack Grealish?
I'm not going to get drawn into that one, Craig, certainly. Not this early in the day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Eddie, firstly, can I just check where you are with Caldolo, please?
He's back training, yeah, and trained well this week.
Thank you. And just on Mickey, he's made such an improvement this season. What have you done? What has changed about Mickey's game that's helped him to develop into the player he's become in the last few years?
Yeah, I've been asked this question a lot. I think for me, the first point of call where you have to look at is the player, and Miggy has worked tirelessly on all aspects of his game. I think he's playing in a team that's performing really well, so I think those relationships with the players around him have really helped him and elevate his game. So looking at the right-hand side, his relationship now with Trips is very good. With Sean Longstaff, whoever's played on that right side, Joe Willock, I think they've all helped each other, performing really well as a team. And ultimately his confidence levels have risen, I think, from his very good form. So you add those things together and you get the finished product.
Miles?
Obviously, a year ago you'd been in talks about taking this job as ahead of the anniversary of you coming here. Will you allow yourself a bit of reflection on the past 12 months, and could have you foreseen the journey that you've been on with this team?
Yeah, well, it's funny because Lee mentioned to me as we walked in, it was nearly a year, and okay, I've heard little things the last few weeks. That time catches up with you, doesn't it? It just flies by, and here we are. So yeah, nearly a year. If I think back to what I was doing this time last year, I was probably looking a lot at Newcastle and trying to formulate my plans in terms of what I may do if I get the job. And yeah, the rest is history. So it's gone so quickly, but I've loved every moment of it.
Just a quick check. Fabian Scher, Elliot Anderson, are they available on Sunday?
Yes. As we currently stand.
Chris?
More Eddie. At Southampton away last year was when you gave Bruno his first start for Newcastle. I mean, obviously he scored that wonderful goal. Just talk about his journey since then and the impact he's had at Newcastle. Obviously you took your time putting him into the team to begin with.
Yeah, it's funny because you look back to that game and it was a pivotal game for Bruno and a pivotal game for us because we went behind in the match. Chris Wood scored a really good goal and then Bruno scored his goal. And I think it was such a strange one because at the time I just saw the ball go in. I didn't really think too much about how it went in. It was only when afterwards you review the goal and you go, wow, that's an incredible finish. And it was the start of Bruno's journey really in displaying how good a player he is. There was no doubt for me he was going to do that. It was just a case of when. And then he started scoring goals, which was something we didn't really predict. And he's influenced us at all ends of the pitch really. Because of his game, all action, so he can play really well from deep, but he can play really well from higher up as well. So naturally, I think he's been outstanding for us. Hopefully, there's a lot more to come, but certainly he looks happy at the moment.
And on the form he's in, can you see him doing well at the World Cup as well?
Well, I think it's a perfect stage for him. I think he can. I'm not in charge of team selection and everything like that. I just hope he gets the chance to show the world how good he is.
Lee Ryder?
Just one on Dubravka. You mentioned it when at the end of the window he's still a Newcastle player. It's bizarre that he hasn't. Everyone thought he was going to play in the European games and cup games, and he's just hasn't played at all. Basically, I just wondered what your view was on that and whether you might at one stage want to bring him back.
Well, I think he's an outstanding goalkeeper. I really do. I'll have a chat with Martin as time progresses. I won't be speaking to him now. He's in the middle of a busy period as we are, but there'll be a time when I'll sit down with him, we'll have a chat and see what he wants to do next.
Are you surprised that he hasn't been used by Man?
Difficult for me to comment. I don't know what goes on at any other football club. All I say is that I love Martin as a lad. He did brilliantly for us last year, and he's an outstanding goalkeeper. So as I say, I'll have a chat with him at the right time.
So would you say the door was still open for him at some stage?
Of course, yeah, the door's still open. A lot will depend on what Martin wants, and yeah, we'll take it from there.
Just on Paul Dummett, is he back running at the moment?
Paul is, he's getting closer, so he's running. He's seen a couple of specialists to check that we can find solutions to a couple of the muscle problems that he's been getting. But yeah, he's in a good place.
And he could, second half of the season, not just him, there's going to be a few that haven't played. We're going to have big roles, I guess.
Absolutely, yeah. We're keen to get everyone back fit. We're in a lot better place physically in terms of injuries than where we were a few weeks ago. And of course, we want that to stay, and we want to use the second half of the season as an opportunity to get those players fit, and they can all have a big impact in the team.
Kieran?
Yeah, I'd much rather people said nice things about us than not, but I'm not in control of that, and it doesn't really change anything. But it's nice to hear people's opinions of us if they're positive, and if they're not, then that's up to them. But it does, yeah, as I say, it doesn't change anything about what we're doing. Only we can prove whether we're contenders or not, and we have to do that on a weekly basis.
You mentioned earlier about Bruno, ask people to vote for Miguel. I know you're not looking ahead to January yet, but those must be the sort of characters you want to bring in going forward to keep that sort of feeling in the group.
Yeah, I think the biggest danger we have is if you bring someone in that doesn't have that team ethic, then you can unbalance the changing room and the feeling and the spirit. I desperately don't want to do that. I wanted to try and enhance that in every window, not destroy it. You've got to be very careful in that respect. But hopefully every decision we make, we can try and make with the best interest of the team.
Martin?
Approaching the 1 year anniversary, what was the first thing you changed?
When we came in?
Yeah.
I've said, again, it's a question I've been asked a lot, but I don't think we necessarily changed anything because we didn't know what was happening before. We came in with very clear ideas of what we wanted to do based on my understanding of the best way to do the job in terms of being a manager for a while. So I had a clear vision of what I wanted to do. And I tried not to focus on what had gone on in the past here. I think that's a very dangerous thing because you can be too reliant on certain things that have happened or traditions and cultures that exist. Of course, we respected that, but we wanted to come in with our own ideas, our own blueprint of how we wanted to play and how we work, and we just set about implementing that.
Low moments in those early couple of months?
Well, I think the obvious one is the Cambridge one. It's still, I can still sort of feel that today. The disappointment, the lowness after that game, because that was a game that we wanted to win, and we wanted to build a winning culture, and we felt that was a really ideal game to do that. We didn't do it. We went out the FA Cup, and there was a real lowness after that. And also the Watford game, I think, close to a win, a pivotal time. We didn't get over the line, conceded late, and it was those two games I think were very close to each other without remembering the dates exactly. And I think from those games afterwards, there felt a long way to go, a long way back for us. Thankfully, the reaction to those disappointments was very strong.
Did you always feel the group were better than perhaps people give them credit for?
Yes, I did. I had that belief internally that we got some really good players. I think my first impressions were genuine, really willing group that wanted to be coached, that wanted help. So I felt there was a really good starting point. Now the results weren't matching that expectation initially, and that leads to an element of doubt because you need the results to validate what you feel. And it was really from the Leeds game onwards that things started to turn in a positive direction.
Your doubt or the players' doubt?
Probably the player. No, not so much for me. I think as the manager, I was very strong in what I was seeing and what I felt. But sometimes the players need the validation of the work you're doing, the messages you're giving. They need at some stage to go, okay, I can see it working. So I think you need that result at the end. Otherwise, the longer you go without that, I think it becomes more difficult.
And is the club perhaps bigger than you first thought when you arrived?
No, I wouldn't say so. I think I had visions of the club being a huge football club. Everything attached to the club for me spoke of a massive club in need of just an injection of positivity and some good results. But nothing's told me any different to what I initially thought.
Oscar? Eddie, when you were formulating plans a year ago, given Miggy's lack of goals and assists, could you really have envisaged him having such a starring role in the first year?
Down the years, I've learnt many things, and it's never underestimate players' abilities given the right surroundings, conditions, confidence. I've seen it many times, players that I've worked with at League 2 level, then playing in the Championship a couple of years later, that you wouldn't necessarily initially have thought that possible. That's just my story from my Bournemouth years, but no, and never put that limitation. Until you start working with the player, you don't know what they're capable of. Miggy started scoring goals, and I'm really, really pleased for him. But it's not just the goals; it's his overall performances. You've all seen have been very, very strong.
Who stands out from Bournemouth then? Who adapted?
There's been so many down the years that, with the right attitude of the player and good consistent work, they can elevate themselves to performances that even the player didn't think they were capable of. Be unfair to name names, but some good stories.
How would you rate Miggy's right foot?
His right foot?
Yeah.
Oof. That's a difficult for any purely left-footed player to analyse someone's right foot. Is a very difficult thing. I don't really analyse sort of the weakness of the right foot. I analyse the strength of the strong foot, and his left foot at the moment is like a 1. So let's analyse that rather than the other way around.
Simon?
Yeah, just continuing on Almiron, players get their motivations from all different places. Do you think the Grealish comment, because there was a little bit of grain of truth in it, hurt him and has acted as a motivation and given him a little boost? Or kick?
I've never discussed it with Miggy because I don't see it being relevant at all, and he's never discussed it with me. Personally, I don't think it would have any part in his thinking.
Do you not think players would react to that kind of thing if they'd read it? I mean, certainly some of the Paraguay players were kicking Grealish in one particular game, and everyone seemed to know about it in football. And he seems to have bounced back from, or certainly proved a point since then.
Yeah, but I think Miggy's motivations are much bigger than that and greater than that. Any comment that anyone in the world could make, whether it's about me or someone else, I think you have to have a bigger picture. And the bigger picture for Miggy, I think, is being the best he can be for Newcastle. He loves the club. The supporters love him. He loves the supporters back. I think his motivations are greater than any comment from any individual. He's proud to play for his country as well. So he's got huge positive things in his life that I think have driven him more than that.
Jordan?
Just on Callum Wilson, spoke on his podcast yesterday, and he said he was feeling a little bit run down this week. Just how is Callum after a big run of games, and do you expect him available for Sunday?
Yeah, I think he's okay. He's had a little cold. It's funny how everything gets around, doesn't it? Especially if you're doing a podcast, I suppose. But yeah, fingers crossed he'll be okay.
And I don't know if you've seen, but Alan Shearer paid Bruno a visit yesterday. I know you sort of encourage your players to embrace former pros, but how nice is that to see?
That's amazing. 2 legends together. I think that would have been an amazing moment for Bruno to meet Alan, and an amazing moment for the Newcastle supporters to see 2 icons together.
Yeah, we should follow on the theme of your impact over the course of the past year. And one of the stats that emerged from Saturday was that, and the week before, 6 of the 10 outfield starters were at the club pre-takeover. By the end of the game, 10 outfield players it figured who were here pre-takeover. How much is that a validation of the work you have done? Does it silence some of those on the outside who are accusing the club of buying their way to where they are now?
It's a difficult one, Craig, because I think we're not looking necessarily for any validation of anything. We're just doing the job to the best of our ability. I love coaching players and working with players and trying to improve players. And as I said from day one here, I sensed a really open group that wanted that work. I've said many times I don't feel we have bought the success we're currently having. It's come from hard work and a lot of brilliant performances from the players. But time will tell on everything. At the moment, we're just doing the best we can day to day.